And again, you can see my screen just well. Yes? All right, thank you very much. Should I just take the floor already? Okay, I'll take that as a yes. Again, good morning, everyone. Now officially, my name is Angelina Kancheva, and I'm one of the volunteers of Alzheimer Bulgaria Association. I'm also a PhD student in the field of clinical neurology and neuroscience at the University of Glasgow. So I'm sharing my screen from my room here in Glasgow, because I'm still based in Scotland. I just started my PhD. I have the pleasure to be presenting for the second year in a row at the conference. And today I'm going to be talking to you about the AIDA project, using digital technology and art to improve the well-being of people affected by Alzheimer's disease. I'm going to be presenting on behalf of my colleagues at Alzheimer Bulgaria Association and also our partners from the AIDA project as well. My presentation is going to take about 15 minutes, and I'll be more than happy to take any questions after. So without further ado, I'm going to get started. This is a quick overview of my presentation for us today. I'm going to provide some context, and then I'm going to describe the objectives of the AIDA project. After that, I'm going to delve deep into the methodology. I'm going to talk a little bit about the experimental paradigm and the measures and tools that we're going to be using. Then I will discuss some tangible results of the project in Bulgaria, and I'm going to finish off with some implications for the future. So in terms of the context, we know that the people suffering from Alzheimer's disease are increasing globally, and that these are now about 46 million people. That number is also predicted to increase in the next decades. We also know that Alzheimer's disease significantly affects the daily lives of both patients and their caregivers. And we know that this includes not only cognitive and emotional processing problems, but also issues like loneliness, isolation, boredom, lack of support, and independence. We also know that a lot of people affected by dementia suffer with depression and anxiety. Just coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic, we also know that this period of isolation further exacerbated these issues. And if we actually look at some of the reports of Alzheimer Association Ireland, we are going to see that in 2020 and 2021, people who live with dementia reported feeling even more depressed, even more isolated, and also they reported issues such as lack of routine because they had to spend so much time at home. In this regard, the AIDA project comes in response to this. It stands for Alzheimer Patient Interaction through Digital and Arts, and it's aiming to improve the quality of life of people affected by dementia by integrating clinical care, digital technology, and also arts. Like I said, we know that the aging population is increasing globally, which essentially also means that elderly people are going to have more free time. This is a bigger issue for people who live with dementia because essentially they are already spending a lot of time at home, feeling isolated, and that also applies to their caregivers. So in that sense, it's important to underscore that new arts and museum-based interventions are trying to draw inspiration from the so-called aging paradox. According to the aging paradox, people who live with dementia progressively are going to start losing their cognitive capacities, which is of course related to the degeneration of prefrontal cortices, but that doesn't mean that they lose their capacity to process emotion. Actually, emotion regulation and processing may remain enhanced further into the disease. So this is the so-called aging paradox. AIDA is trying to make use of that by essentially integrating people who live with dementia and enabling their access to art, technology, and also culture, because emotion processing remains a way for people who live with dementia to reach and to be reached. Ultimately, the goal of the AIDA project is to protect the dignity of those who live with dementia, preserve their autonomy, and try and make sure that they remain an active part of society, because currently we know that people who live with dementia do not get the same access to places of culture, arts, and also digital technology. In terms of the methodology, the experimental paradigm is described on the slide. We have a couple of different locations, and each partnering country that takes part in the AIDA project will have different links to places of culture and art. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that further when I discuss the project aims in Bulgaria. We're going to have a couple of different sessions. They will take place over 12 weeks, and there will be a total of 7 sessions. One session will be held every 2 weeks, and it will follow the structure that you can see on the slide. There will be a presentation of the program at first. This is when also informed consent will be collected from people living with dementia and their caregivers. There will also be an evaluation at the start of the project. And after that, there will be several sessions of art exploring and art making. The art exploring sessions are going to entail guided tours in galleries, museums, or also other places of cultural and historic significance. This is also when people who live with dementia and their caregivers will be able to take a look around a gallery or a museum, depending on what the place of culture and art will be in the corresponding country. And there will also be a couple of art making sessions, which will include firsthand production and creation of art. That can be digital or analog. There will also be the possibility for private exhibition and discovering a virtual environment. Here, it's important to underscore that we will be making use of a digital platform. So essentially, a lot of the materials will be uploaded onto the platform and they will be made publicly available. But also, people who live with dementia and their caregivers will have the opportunity to create their own individual room where they can go in after they have attended a place in person, and they can look at a couple of objects that have a particular importance and significance to them. So they will be able to do that virtually so as to enhance the emotional memory of that experience that they've had. There will also be an evaluation at the end of the project. In terms of the measures and the tools of the AIDA project, there will be a test and a semi-structured interview. This will be administered to both people who have dementia and their caregivers, and we will administer those at the start of the program and at the end of the program. Essentially, the semi-structured interview and the test will be a visual analog scale. So people who have dementia will be asked to report if they were feeling optimistic or pessimistic, their levels of confidence. It will be those sorts of questions that focus primarily on quality of life. We will have tablets, pen and paper for the completion of the tests and for the interview. And we will also be making use of the Mozilla Hub's digital platform. So essentially this website that I have put the link on the slide over here takes you to the Mozilla Hubs. This platform is not specific for the AIDA project. Other different organizations are also making use of the platform, but essentially this will be where people will be able to log in, take a look around at the gallery or museum, depending on the place of culture. And also people who have dementia and their caregivers will be able to create that personalized room, and they will be able to log in on Mozilla Hubs and then take a look around after they have visited a place in person. So essentially, this is how we're harnessing the potential of digital technology as part of the project. Coming to the most exciting part, in my opinion, the tangible results that we've been able to achieve in Bulgaria thus far. The implementation plan includes 21 scenarios. These are activities that will be carried out in museums. And the plan is to train 21 laypersons in the AIDA methodology. There will be 2 groups. 5 of the people will be individuals living with dementia, and 5 will be their caregivers, and there will also be a facilitator on site. In our case, in Bulgaria, we have 1 partnering museum that agreed to partake in the project, and this is the National Polytechnic Museum. So essentially, we will always have a facilitator in the museum as well. And we're planning to use 14 scenarios and to test them during the pilot phase of the project. This is the timeline. So last year in 2022, we already had 2 training sessions. The first one involved the creation of the training materials, and the second one was essentially the training of laypersons on how to implement the AIDA methodology. We are planning to pilot the project at the end of February 2023, and then the end of the project is scheduled for December this year. In terms of the implications, our main motivation and intention is to try and improve the quality of life of those who live with dementia and also their caregivers. We want to do that by enhancing their access to places of culture, art, and also digital spaces, which are increasingly being used in our daily lives. By doing so, we want to protect the dignity of people with dementia and also enable their social, emotional, and cognitive engagement later in life. We also want to work towards a dementia-friendlier society, and I cannot underscore how underprivileged people living with dementia are in Bulgaria in this regard. Most of them spend a lot of time at home. They feel incredibly isolated. So for us to be able to get these people into museums, to get them to be accompanied by their caregivers and to have access to art and culture is really an incredible achievement. We want to reduce the stigma and raise awareness on dementia and make sure that people who live with this disease remain an active part of society. And essentially, we want to achieve that via that emotional processing that I talked about earlier. I would like to pay special thanks to our AIDA partners, also the other countries that take part: Italy, Greece, Ireland, Slovenia, and Denmark. If you're interested to hear or understand more about the project, you can scan the QR code on the slide or visit the links that you can see here on the slide. And also, of course, I would like to pay special thanks to my colleagues at Alzheimer Bulgaria Association. If you want to know more about our organization and what we do, again, here's the links on the slides. You can always email the project coordinator, Kalina, and also you can always send me an email in case of interest. Thank you very much again, and I'm happy to take any questions if there's any. Thanks again.
Professor Maclaves, we cannot hear
There's
you.
a question from say, Alexander Moreno, so please.
Yes, thank you very much for this beautiful presentation. Maybe you mentioned it, but it is important probably to highlight it and make an emphasis on this. While we know that there are functions that are preserved in the medium to later stages of dementia. Why is it important to work from these arts-based approaches?
Yeah, that's a very
elaborate a little bit on that.
Of course, that's a very good point. First of all, like you pointed out, we are aiming to mostly include people with relatively mild forms of dementia, because of course, the further that the illness progresses, the harder it becomes for people to actually retain that independence. For us, the main focus of the AIDA project is independence and dignity. So essentially, we want to improve the quality of life of those who live with dementia. When we make use of the arts and museum-based interventions, we are essentially working in that direction, because we do know that in the mild stages of Alzheimer's disease, people are still able to recall parts of their own lives. They're still able to emotionally relate to stimuli that they find interesting. This is also where the opportunity to create a personalized space on the digital platform comes into place. So for example, if you're going for a walk in the museum and you look at a painting and you remember something from your own life, or that evokes a particular emotion, you can record that token and you can then revisit it later on when you are on the digital platform. So essentially, this is a way to keep these people engaged, but also this is a way to try and stimulate them both emotionally and cognitively. But we know that the first stimulus has to be an emotional one, because this makes it easier for people with dementia to actually have a recollection of something that they used to find interesting, intriguing, inspiring. So this is mostly music. It can be also sensory stimuli, depending on the museum, depending on the place of culture and art. We can also have a musical path where people will be able to listen to music. So in that sense, we have a lot of flexibility as to what we can actually do on site. But this is the main goal, to try and improve the quality of life of people living with dementia, essentially. And we know that art is an effective way to do that, because they find it easier to relate to emotional stimuli, but also this is how recollection mostly comes about for them, via an emotional recollection or stimulus.
I don't know if we have the time for this, but would it be possible to have a look at the platform?
Of course.
That a lot of people are curious about
I can
what
imagine.
It looks like.
Yes, of course. I'm just going to do that on my screen because you can still see it. Again, like I pointed out, this is not a platform that can be used only for the sake of the AIDA project. So it's a general platform, but essentially you can get started and you can start building on from here. There are different creator labs. So essentially, you can have these little characters that look a little bit like emojis and that are also made quite realistic, really. So when you think about one of these rooms, personalized rooms, or even the general ones, they will look something like this. So it's a little bit like a virtual environment kind of thing, where you're able to walk around, watch things in 3D, of course. So this is essentially how the platform looks like. Because I don't have a personalized account, I can sadly not log in to actually show you a specific environment, but this is the main idea.
Much. I think it is good enough, but we have to move on a little bit, please. Time for, let's say, one more question, but okay, just a quick question on my part. So my question is, as it concerns the mental health state, so depression, anxiety, and so on, are you going to measure these based only on, let's say, questionnaires? This is the one issue. And the second is that let's say, as we know, demographics are playing a big role here. So the age, the social environment, and so on. With only 5 participants, it's going to be difficult to really, check this issue. So these are the two main, let's say, question. The basic question I have as it concerns the actual, assessment and, let's say, evaluation methodology.
Yeah, these are incredibly valid points. Like you mentioned, this is an incredible achievement. This is an incredible project to be able to actually implement in Bulgaria, because if I have to be completely honest, something like this is really unheard of in Bulgaria. The main idea for us is to really pilot the project. So we want to give it a try. We want to see how well this project idea can actually scale in the country. And then if we manage to achieve the results that we're after, we may think about expanding it and actually including more people. For now, we're trying to have humble goals, because it's the first time that something like that is being done in Bulgaria. So we want to see how the collaboration with the Polytechnic Museum is going to work out. We want to see how people are going to feel as well, and also how feasible it will be for people in the museum to tailor it for people who live with dementia and their caregivers. Essentially, we're doing tests and...
Understandable, it is a feasibility type of approach.
Of course.
Disagree. It is just a thing I think you need to
definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very well. Thank you very much. I think that